Imagine losing everything: your status, your influence, your reputation, the respect people once showed you. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that the advantages you spent years building had suddenly disappeared. What would happen? Most people immediately think about money, power, security. But something far more interesting would happen. You would finally see people clearly. Because one of the strangest truths about human nature is this: many people don't reveal who they are when you're strong. They reveal who they are when they believe you're weak. And that's what makes weakness so dangerous. But it's also what makes weakness so valuable. Today, we're going to explore one of the darkest observations ever made about human nature. An observation that appears throughout history. In politics, in business, in war, in friendships, in relationships, and in everyday life. It's the realization that weakness doesn't merely expose your limitations. It exposes everyone else's intentions. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why some of the most powerful people in history learned more from their failures than their victories. Let's begin. Most men spend their lives hiding weakness, hiding mistakes, hiding insecurity, hiding failure. And on the surface, that makes sense. Society rewards competence, strength, confidence, results. Nobody wants to appear incapable. Nobody wants to appear vulnerable. Nobody wants to appear behind. So people build armor: professional armor, social armor, emotional armor. And after enough years, many men become experts at appearing strong. The problem is that armor creates distance. Distance between you and other people. Distance between appearance and reality. Distance between what people say and what they truly think. When you're successful, most people treat you differently. When you're respected, most people treat you differently. When you're influential, most people treat you differently. But here's the uncomfortable question: are they respecting you, or are they respecting your position? Those are not the same thing, and history repeatedly demonstrates the difference. Think about how quickly people change when circumstances change. A leader loses power. A celebrity loses fame. A businessman loses money. A champion loses status. Suddenly, people who once showed loyalty disappear. People who once offered support become silent. People who once praised every decision become critics. What changed? Not necessarily the individual, the perception of the individual. And perception is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. Machiavelli understood this better than almost anyone. People often imagine loyalty as permanent. Respect is permanent. Support is permanent. But much of what appears permanent is actually conditional. Conditional on success. Conditional on influence. Conditional on advantage. This doesn't mean everyone is dishonest. It means incentives matter. And incentives reveal more about people than their words ever will. Here's something worth thinking about. If a person only treats you well when they need something from you, what exactly are they valuing? You, or the benefits attached to you? The distinction matters. Because many relationships appear strong only while conditions remain favorable. The moment conditions change, the relationship reveals its true foundation. And that's where weakness becomes unexpectedly useful. Not because weakness feels good, not because failure is enjoyable, because adversity functions like a spotlight. It illuminates what comfort often conceals. Most people never realize this. When hardship arrives, they focus exclusively on what they're losing: money, status, confidence, opportunities. But they overlook what they're gaining: information. And information can be incredibly valuable, because information reduces illusion. Imagine a man who has been successful for 10 years. Every room welcomes him. Every opinion receives attention. Every decision receives support. Naturally, he begins believing the support is genuine. Maybe some of it is, but maybe some of it isn't. Then something changes. Business slows. Influence decreases. The attention fades. And suddenly the reactions around him begin changing too. Some people disappear completely. Others become distant. Others reveal envy that had been hidden for years. What happened? Did these people suddenly become different? Or did circumstances finally expose what was already there? This is one of the most overlooked lessons in psychology. Pressure doesn't always create character. Often it reveals character. The same principle applies to relationships, friendships, organizations, entire societies. Pressure removes masks. Comfort allows masks to remain. That's why difficult periods often feel so confusing. You're not only confronting external problems, you're confronting new information about the people around you. And information isn't always pleasant. Let's go deeper. Most men view weakness as a disadvantage, and in many situations, it is. But weakness also changes observation. When you're winning, people focus on your success. When you're struggling, people reveal their priorities. Watch carefully what happens when someone makes a mistake. Some people become supportive. Others become opportunistic. Some people offer solutions. Others quietly enjoy the failure. And this reaction tells you something important. Human beings often reveal themselves through another person's hardship, not because hardship changes them, because hardship removes incentives to pretend. Think about that. When you're successful, people often have reasons to hide their true opinions, reasons to remain diplomatic, reasons to remain agreeable. But when success disappears, those reasons often disappear too. And what emerges is reality. Reality is valuable, sometimes painful, but valuable, because illusions are expensive. They consume time, energy, trust, and attention. The sooner reality becomes visible, the better decisions you can make. Here's where Stoicism enters the conversation. The Stoics had a radically different view of adversity than most people. They didn't see hardship exclusively as a punishment. They saw it as a test of judgment, a test of character, a test of emotional control, and perhaps most importantly, a test of perception. Because two people can experience the same setback and extract completely different lessons. One sees humiliation, the other sees information. One sees defeat, the other sees exposure. One focuses on loss, the other focuses on understanding. And understanding changes everything. Because understanding creates adaptation. Adaptation creates resilience. Resilience creates strength. This is why some men emerge from hardship wiser, while others emerge bitter. The event is often similar. The interpretation is different. Now here's a pattern you'll begin noticing everywhere once you understand it. People frequently reveal their values indirectly, not through declarations, through behavior. Everyone claims to value loyalty, but loyalty becomes visible only when circumstances become difficult. Everyone claims to value integrity, but integrity becomes visible only when honesty carries a cost. Everyone claims to value friendship, but friendship becomes visible only when maintaining it requires sacrifice. Words are cheap. Conditions reveal reality, and weakness changes conditions. That's why weakness often becomes a truth detector. Not because weakness is powerful by itself, because weakness alters incentives. When incentives change, behavior changes. When behavior changes, hidden motives become visible. This principle appears repeatedly throughout history. Some of the greatest political miscalculations occurred because leaders confused obedience with loyalty. As long as power remained intact, support appeared overwhelming. Then conditions changed, and support vanished almost overnight. The lesson is timeless. People may follow strength, but following strength and caring about someone are not the same thing. One is transactional, the other is personal. Confusing the two can be extremely costly. Now here's something most people don't want to hear. Sometimes weakness exposes uncomfortable truths about ourselves as well. It's easy to analyze other people, much harder to analyze ourselves. Yet hardship often reveals our own motivations too. Who are we without status? Who are we without recognition? Who are we without constant validation? Many people never ask these questions because success allows them to avoid asking. Then adversity arrives, and suddenly they discover how much of their identity depended on external circumstances. This can be painful, but it's also liberating, because dependence cannot be addressed until it's recognized. Imagine a man who believes he's confident. Then criticism arrives and completely destabilizes him. What happened? The criticism didn't create insecurity. It revealed insecurity. Imagine a man who believes he's independent. Then social rejection arrives and completely controls his behavior. What happened? The rejection didn't create dependence. It revealed dependence. This is one reason self-awareness is so difficult. The truth often arises disguised as discomfort, and most people instinctively avoid discomfort. Yet the very experiences we avoid frequently contain the lessons we need most. Now let's talk about one of Machiavelli's most misunderstood insights. Many people think Machiavelli taught manipulation, but beneath his observations was a simpler message. Understand human nature as it actually exists, not as you wish it existed. That's a crucial distinction, because unrealistic expectations create vulnerability. The man who expects everyone to be loyal becomes vulnerable to betrayal. The man who expects everyone to be honest becomes vulnerable to deception. The man who expects everyone to act nobly becomes vulnerable to disappointment. Realism is not cynicism. Realism is preparation. Preparation reduces surprise, and reduced surprise improves decision-making. This doesn't mean becoming distrustful. It means becoming observant. Observant people pay attention to actions, patterns, consistency, character under pressure, because pressure reveals things comfort conceals, and that observation leads us to a fascinating conclusion. Perhaps weakness isn't merely something to overcome. Perhaps weakness is also something to study, not because weakness itself is desirable, but because weakness changes visibility. It reveals relationships, motives, dependencies, character, and in a world where appearances constantly compete with reality, visibility is valuable, very valuable. The reason weakness reveals so much about human nature is because weakness changes incentives, and incentives govern behavior more than most people realize. Think about a simple example. Imagine two men. The first is powerful, respected, and successful. The second has recently suffered a setback. Who receives more honest reactions? Usually the second, not because people suddenly become truthful, because the social cost of honesty changes. This is one of the most important realities of status. Status doesn't merely affect how people see you. It affects what people are willing to reveal around you. A highly respected person often receives filtered information, filtered opinions, filtered criticism, filtered reactions. People become careful, strategic, diplomatic, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unconsciously. But when status decreases, the filters begin disappearing. And when filters disappear, reality becomes easier to observe. This is one reason some of the wisest leaders in history became deeply suspicious of praise. Not because praise is always dishonest, because praise can become addictive, and addiction creates blindness. The more dependent a man becomes on approval, the less likely he is to question it. The less likely he is to question it, the easier it becomes to manipulate him through it. Think about how often people chase validation. At work, in relationships, on social media, in business, in nearly every environment imaginable. Validation feels good. Recognition feels good. Respect feels good. There's nothing wrong with that. The danger begins when external validation becomes the foundation of internal confidence. Because foundations matter. A building constructed on unstable ground eventually develops problems. The same is true psychologically. If your confidence depends entirely on how others respond to you, then your confidence belongs partly to them. And whatever belongs partly to other people can be influenced by other people. This is why adversity sometimes creates stronger individuals than success. Success often reinforces existing beliefs. Adversity forces examination. Success says, continue. Adversity asks, why? Success can hide weaknesses. Adversity exposes them. And exposed weaknesses can be improved. Hidden weaknesses usually cannot. Here's something that separates resilient men from fragile men. Resilient men view uncomfortable information differently. Most people see uncomfortable information as an attack. Resilient people see uncomfortable information as data. That distinction changes everything. Imagine discovering that someone only respected you because of your position. Painful? Absolutely. Useful? Also yes. Imagine discovering that a friendship was largely transactional. Disappointing? Certainly. Valuable information? Without question. Reality remains reality regardless of whether we enjoy it. The sooner reality becomes visible, the sooner intelligent decisions become possible. This is why some of the strongest men become surprisingly calm during difficult periods. Not because they enjoy suffering, not because they enjoy setbacks, because they understand something most people overlook. Every hardship contains information. Every disappointment contains information. Every betrayal contains information. Every failure contains information. And information has value, particularly when it reveals truth. Now let's talk about perception. One of Machiavelli's most enduring observations was that perception influences human behavior enormously. People don't merely react to reality. They react to their interpretation of reality. And interpretations are often influenced by appearances. This creates an interesting problem. Most people spend years improving appearances. Very few spend years improving perception. What's the difference? Appearance focuses on how things look. Perception focuses on how things actually are. A man can appear confident while feeling insecure. Appear successful while feeling lost. Appear strong while feeling fragile. Appear respected while being quietly resented. The gap between appearance and reality can become enormous. And weakness often narrows that gap. Because weakness makes performance harder. Masks become difficult to maintain under pressure. Pretenses become expensive. Eventually reality begins surfacing, not all at once, but gradually. And once reality surfaces, clarity increases. Clarity is underrated. Most people assume comfort is the goal. Yet clarity often proves more valuable than comfort. Comfort feels good temporarily. Clarity improves decisions permanently. And good decisions compound over time. Here's a question worth considering. Why do some people emerge from major setbacks more powerful than before? Not financially, not socially, psychologically. The answer usually isn't luck. It's perspective. Some people experience hardship and become consumed by bitterness. Others experience hardship and become students of reality. One group asks, "Why did this happen to me?" The other asks, "What is this teaching me?" Those questions lead to very different destinations. The first often produces resentment. The second often produces wisdom. And wisdom tends to be far more valuable in the long run. Stoicism repeatedly emphasized this principle. Focus on what can be learned. Focus on what can be controlled. Focus on what can be improved. Everything else becomes noise. This mindset transforms adversity, not into something pleasant, into something useful. And usefulness changes how hardship is experienced. Now here's a fascinating pattern. Many men spend years trying to eliminate every weakness. They want complete confidence, complete control, complete certainty, complete invulnerability. The problem is that such a state doesn't exist. Human beings are imperfect. Every person possesses fears, blind spots, limitations, insecurities, weaknesses. The goal is not becoming flawless. The goal is becoming aware. Awareness creates adaptability. Adaptability creates resilience. Resilience creates strength. Ironically, the men most obsessed with appearing flawless often become the easiest to destabilize. Why? Because maintaining perfection is exhausting. One crack in the image creates panic. One criticism creates anxiety. One failure creates identity crisis. Everything depends on maintaining the illusion. By contrast, men who accept their imperfections become surprisingly difficult to shake. They already know they're imperfect. They already know they make mistakes. They already know they have limitations. So criticism loses some of its power. Failure loses some of its power. Embarrassment loses some of its power. Not because these experiences feel good, because they no longer threaten identity. This is one of the hidden advantages of self-awareness. The more honestly you understand yourself, the fewer surprises exist. And fewer surprises mean greater stability. Let's go deeper. One reason weakness reveals true intentions is because weakness changes opportunity. Opportunity exposes character. Give someone power. Their character becomes visible. Remove someone's power. Other people's character becomes visible. Both situations reveal something important. This is why periods of transition often become so educational. Changing careers, losing status, building something new, starting over, experiencing failure. These moments reveal who supports you, who tolerates you, who envies you, who believes in you, who simply benefited from your previous circumstances. The information can be uncomfortable, but discomfort and value frequently travel together. Many of the most important lessons arrive wearing unpleasant disguises. And that's precisely why most people miss them. They focus exclusively on the discomfort. They never investigate the lesson. Now imagine looking back 10 years from today. Which experiences would likely teach you more? 10 years of uninterrupted comfort? Or several years that included setbacks, uncertainty, mistakes, and recovery? Most people know the answer immediately. Growth often emerges from challenge. Not because challenge is inherently good, because challenge demands adaptation, and adaptation produces development. The same principle applies socially. You learn more about people during difficult periods than comfortable periods. More about yourself, more about relationships, more about priorities, more about human nature. In many ways, adversity accelerates education, a painful education, but education nonetheless. Here's the final irony. The thing most men spend their lives trying to avoid often becomes one of their greatest teachers. Weakness, failure, embarrassment, rejection, loss. Not because these experiences are desirable, because they remove illusion. And illusion is expensive. Illusion wastes years. Reality saves them. So when Machiavelli studied human nature, he wasn't searching for comforting conclusions. He was searching for accurate conclusions. And accuracy matters, because accurate observations produce better decisions. Better decisions produce better outcomes. And better outcomes produce greater freedom. That's ultimately what this entire discussion is about. Freedom. The freedom that comes from seeing clearly. The freedom that comes from understanding incentives. The freedom that comes from recognizing character. The freedom that comes from no longer depending entirely on appearances. Most people fear weakness because they assume weakness only takes. But weakness can also reveal motives, reveal loyalties, reveal insecurities, reveal dependencies, reveal truths that success often keeps hidden. And once those truths become visible, something remarkable happens. You stop evaluating people solely by their words. You start evaluating them by their behavior. You stop measuring relationships solely by good times. You start measuring them by difficult times. You stop asking who supports your success. You start asking who remains when success becomes uncertain. Because those answers tell a much deeper story. In the end, the strongest men are not the men who never experience weakness. They are the men who learn from it, the men who use hardship to gain clarity, the men who allow reality to replace illusion, the men who stop fearing uncomfortable truths and begin studying them. Because when weakness reveals reality, reality becomes an advantage. And in a world filled with appearances, clarity may be one of the most powerful advantages a man can possess.